We're flipping the script today. We are going to talk about the primary questions that we get asked by people just like you who are considering moving into the South Puget Sound area. And it all revolve around lifestyle.
Lifestyle. So whether you're thinking about moving to the South Puget Sound area because of waterfront living or laid-back lifestyle or luxury lifestyle, we've got it all covered. So keep watching to find out where the best place is going to be for you to live.
We're Joe and Charity. We're local realtors, and we help people just like you every week who are making the big decision of moving into this area. And we want to make sure you get all the information that you can to make an informed decision.
So let's jump into lifestyle category number 1, which is location and accessibility.
The primary concerns that people want to know is it's accessibility to the airport, accessibility to the freeway for commute times, and accessibility to other urban cities.
So let's talk about the airport first. Very closest place to the airport is going to be Tacoma area, and especially if you are pretty close to the freeway. So Tacoma is spread out quite a bit, so you can be further or closer depending on where you land in Tacoma. So if you are in the north end of Tacoma, you're going to be about 25 minutes away. But if you get down further south and then maybe stretch out towards Puyallup or some of those areas, it's going to take a little bit longer. But generally, as long as you are in that I-5 corridor, you're going to be in a spot where you're about 25 minutes, as long as there's not an accident or it's main traffic time. Now, really close to Tacoma is University Place.
Of course, in the Tacoma area is University Place and Fircrest, both convenient access to the freeway that's going to get you up to the airport in that 20 to 25 minute range.
Yeah, and if you want to stretch a little bit further and you feel like, okay, I could have a little bit further distance to the airport, then Gig Harbor, as you continue to go to the west, is going to be about 45 minutes to the airport, as long as you're not out in kind of the far out lands of the Gig Harbor area.
That's right. And then, of course, the further south you go, especially south of the military base, and you get into Tumwater, Olympia, and Lacey area, you're going to stretch that into about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, just depending on traffic once again.
So as you can see, all of the South Puget Sound area is within a really good range of the airport. Thankfully, because we are on the south side of Seattle and that's where the airport is, you don't have to drive through Seattle, which is the most problematic area. So you're avoiding that. So you should be good to go in this area.
What goes along with your commute to the airport is if you're working in the Seattle area. So commute times from Tacoma is about an hour, depending on traffic, could be an hour and a half. If you're all the way down in Olympia, really expect that to be an hour and a half to possibly longer if you're in the middle of the high traffic times during rush hour. So be aware of that for sure. Now, the second lifestyle category that we get on a regular basis is waterfront living. Now, waterfront living doesn't necessarily mean you're exactly on the water. Maybe you have a water view or easy access to the water. I want to highlight a couple features. Number one that I would say in that list is going to be Gig Harbor. Now, Gig Harbor is going to be the most expensive. You're going to find homes in that area that's going to range up to, one of them actually is on the market for $12.5 million, but a lot of them are far less than that. But it's a quaint little harbor that people have access to downtown, very small, wonderful little community feeling. And then on the other side that I think kind of rivals that as far as for accessibility with water is the Olympia area. We have a lot of waterfront view properties here, waterfront properties here, communities that have a beach access here, and the range you're going to find is much closer, from 800,000 to 3 to 4 million, but there are a lot of homes closer to that $1 million and even under $1 million that are on the water, which is a fantastic value.
As Joe mentioned, in Gig Harbor, you're going to get the feel of that small town. It's very quaint. Love the harbor area in there. We go down there all the time, get a little something to eat, walk around. But Olympia is also going to have its own charm for having waterfront living. Of course, it's a bigger town than Gig Harbor is, so you have more amenities and more things going on in the town itself. And the price point is what I think really draws people down. As you had mentioned, I would say if you had the same house in both areas, it'd be about $200,000 to $300,000 less in the Olympia area. So it really gives you the opportunity to get on the water if you do not have the highest of budgets up to that $12 million. And as Joe mentioned, those neighborhoods that have their own beaches is really really the most affordable way that you can get waterfront, because there's homes in those areas that are $600,000, $700,000, and the beaches are great. They have some of the best beaches in our area, and it's only for that neighborhood.
Now, of course, between Olympia and Gig Harbor is this place called Tacoma. Now, in Tacoma, you're going to have University Place, you're going to have the West Side, you're going to have Ruston. All of them are going to have some type of waterfront or water view. A lot of them are going to be more water view because the waterfront's not as big of a deal in those areas due to how the construction of the city was years ago. Don't blame me, it was on them. But just to be aware that there are great options though for you, and the price range is going to be somewhere between the price of Olympia and Gig Harbor.
Yeah, and even if you just have a water view in those areas, there are some really fantastic parks and walkways. In fact, Ruston Way is right along the water. That's why you don't get very many waterfronts there, because it's a public walkway that goes all along the water. And then there's waterfront beaches and things on the other side too. So if you're wondering, well, I kind of don't even care if I'm right on the water, then Tacoma, you could actually get some
good options.
Yep.
Yeah, some good options with more amenities, a little bit bigger lifestyle. We'll talk about that here in a minute.
Yep. And then if you want to stretch out just a little bit further, you can go a little further out towards the Kitsap Peninsula, and you're going to have options like Port Orchard and Bremerton and Paulsbo, and those are going to be much smaller towns, but they do have a lot of waterfront access as well, so you could get something maybe a little peaceful, a little quieter setting, and also be on the water. So if you're less interested in waterfront and you're more interested in urban lifestyle, then that's the next category we have. The urban lifestyle is something that quite a few people ask us about. They want to know where there's things going on all the time, museums, restaurants, things happening all the time, nightlife, and not all the places we've mentioned previously have a lot going on in those categories.
Matter of fact, this is an area that we think Tacoma probably is going to win out over all of the other areas, primarily because the other areas that we've mentioned already are smaller and don't have as much going on. Tacoma really does. That means if you're a foodie, the options for you are probably going to be best in Tacoma, and that's going to be your closest jump to some major areas, i.e. like Seattle, that has lots of food options and a lot of things going on.
Yeah, and in regards to museums and theaters and things like that, they've got the museum district in Tacoma, which has like 5 different museums, really fabulous. And they have a theater district. These aren't just cinemas. These are theaters where there's live performances going on all year round. That's in that same area as well. And of course, nightlife happening there. We do surprisingly have a kind of new burst of energy in the Olympia area with nightlife. And we do have some great theaters with performances going on all the time. We love the restaurants here. We talk about them on our videos. We visit them a lot. There's lots of hometown people that live here that have hole in the walls and not even hole in the walls, really beautiful restaurants. And there's plenty going on, but not as much as Tacoma.
Well, that is for sure. Of course, in the Gig Harbor area, it's a smaller community. That's not to mean that they don't have anything going on with amenities. There's some great restaurants. There's some great shops that you could go and spend the day for sure meandering around, finding some great things. However, Tacoma, in its proximity to Seattle, is probably going to be the bigger issue because you can get up to Seattle, experience all that they have going on, and be back without having to pay all the extra prices.
So that leads us to our next lifestyle category, which is luxury living.
Let's get bougie.
That's right. In all of the South Puget Sound region, Gig Harbor is going to take the #1 spot.
I think so.
Gig Harbor has that upscale feel. Now, we had some clients just come last weekend, and they were worried that maybe Gig Harbor would feel a little too upscale for them. And they thought, no, it's not like it's not pretentious. It's Northwest upscale. So it feels still very relaxed and welcoming. It's just a little bit more upscale than the rest of the area.
Yep.
In fact, one of the areas that you will feel like you are surrounded by luxury is in the Canterwood Golf and Country Club and the gated community around that.
Yeah, it's an amazing community. Homes in that area are definitely, I think, the most luxurious outside of some waterfront properties on the Gig Harbor area. Wonderful golf course, wonderful amenities, beautiful landscaped throughout the entire community, and they keep it gated. And I would say even out of all the communities, the most gated communities are also going to be in Gig Harbor. So if that's something that you're looking for, you're going to have probably your best options in that community.
Yeah, for sure. However, there are homes that are in that upper price point. You're going to find that in North Tacoma. There are some stunning, beautiful, extraordinary old homes, because that part of the South Puget Sound area was developed first, and there was a lot of money back then.
That's right.
And there are gorgeous.
Huge homes.
Yeah, I just said that already. I'll say it again. You just have to see them. They are, 10,000, 12,000 square feet. Beautiful, amazing views. Part of the north side of Tacoma is sloped, and so there are a ton of these houses that just have beautiful waterfront views, and you can spend that much and you can feel in the lap of luxury right there in North Tacoma.
Now in Olympia, we have some really nice communities, but as far as like a luxury type of experience, you don't find it as much. We are a little bit more laid back. Now that is not to say you don't have some more exclusive type of properties. You really do. Anytime you're on the water, and especially if those are very well-developed properties, of course, that's going to have the luxury lifestyle that you're looking for. And if that's important to you, you're going to have that combination of the best of both worlds. It's probably the most affordable for that type of luxury. However, for like a really gated off community, we don't have many of those. It's just a little bit different in Olympia. So if the laid back luxury, that's probably in the Olympia area.
So if you're thinking, no, luxury's not my thing, I'm really an outdoorsy person, then you fit right in with many people that are moving to the Pacific Northwest. They are moving here because specifically they want that outdoor lifestyle.
When it comes to this category, I think Olympia Lacey Tumwater is one that you'd want to consider because we have so many local hikes that get you down to beaches and just waterfront access to meander around. If you want to get out to the peninsula and explore the Olympic National Forest, there's options for you to do that, probably most conveniently from here. Of course, then you can get out to the Hoh National Rainforest, the only non-tropical rainforest in the world. Yes, that's true. So you have all of those type of things. Of course, you have Mount Rainier, you have Mount St. Helens, all of them. We're probably the most convenient for that. However, each community does have different things going on for them.
Yeah. So if you're in Tacoma, of course, we talked about Tacoma is more urban. So they do have some really great parks. If not getting out and hiking is your thing. But as you spread out of Tacoma, you're going to have some small hikes, but you're going to have to drive just a little bit further to get to the sort of things that we have here in Olympia. In Gig Harbor, on the other hand, you are kind of on the cusp of the Kitsap Peninsula. So once you pass through Gig Harbor, you're going to be off and running out into the Olympic National Park again. And you're also going to be up into like the swim area, and you're around all the way around the peninsula. So it's a good jumping off point from there. But for sure, we keep coming back to Olympia because there is the most opportunity basically right there where you live.
Of course, not all the outdoor activities are going to be just a hike. There's course golfing, there's walking trails, there's paddleboarding, there's kayaking. There are a lot of outdoor activities that you might be interested in, and each one of the areas is going to have different opportunities for you.
So let's start with Olympia. So Olympia has multiple points where you can launch a kayak out. There's actually several places where you can rent a kayak. One of them is a restaurant where you can have brunch where you eat your breakfast and get a kayak. Doesn't that sound fun? So plenty of spaces to launch your kayak or your paddleboard. And Olympia is also full of marinas. So if you want to have a boat that's a little bit bigger than a paddleboard, a little bit bigger than a kayak, then there are plenty of marinas to moor your boat at that you can get out and explore all the Puget Sound area, go fishing, and all of those things.
Of course, then Tacoma has Narrows Marina as well as Point Defiance Marina, a couple places for you to be able to take your boat and explore. And then downtown Gig Harbor is a harbor. So you can, of course, moor your boat there as well. Lots of options if that's on your goals.
Yep, and you can kayak and you can paddleboard out of multiple locations in both Gig Harbor and also in the Tacoma area. Now, if you go out to the areas that we're talking about with Poulsbo and Bremerton and Port Orchard, they're also going to have accessibility, but not as many accessibility points as we have here in Olympia or in Tacoma area. Joe mentioned golfing, and I know we don't do that, but probably many of you watching do. So knowing where the golf courses are is really important. There are 26 golf courses here in between Tacoma and Olympia. So you have plenty to get out and do. I don't think you're going to be bored if you just hop from one to the other or find your favorite one. And there are all golf courses also obviously in Gig Harbor and all of the outlying areas as well, but you'll have plenty to do if you plan on golfing when you move here. So maybe the lifestyle category that you are most interested in doesn't have to do with getting outside or being on the golf course. It really has to do with the feel of where you live. And so this next one we're going to talk about is the laid back lifestyle, which we get that from a lot of people, especially people moving from very busy areas. They want to know, where can I feel relaxed?
Like I'm just going to take a big deep breath and it's all going to be okay. And I would say if that's one of your big concerns, I would consider the Olympia area. You know, we're the state capital, and that can sometimes seem confusing. Like, man, isn't there a lot of hustle and bustle? Actually, it's not. It is a very kind of laid back, business casual type of environment. So the business community kind of functions that way. And then what you'll find, it's a very creative kind of crunchy granola as we describe it. And we love that. So if that's something that you're into, a little bit more casual, a little bit more laid back, Olympia is going to have your best options. Of course, once you get out of like Tacoma, past Gig Harbor, into those other areas like Poles Bowl and such, it's going to slow down a little bit as well. You're going to run into some more rural communities, and then it is going to be a little bit more laid back lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure. You can find the laid back lifestyle in Gig Harbor as well. It's just going to be a little bit more luxury laid back, as we talked about a little bit earlier. But all of the South Puget Sound area is pretty laid back. We have a very relaxed vibe here, and you're not going to feel like there's too much hustle and bustle. You're not going to feel like you're in LA. You're not going to feel like you're in New York. If you go to Seattle, you might get that feel, but you're just not going to feel it in this area.
Yeah. And I would say even when we come back to say like the Tacoma area, University Place, Fircrest, Ruston, those areas are still a little bit more of the laid back versus like the Seattle. So it's the least laid back because it's a little bit more urban by nature. It still, in my mind, isn't overwhelming having been in those other areas and communities that Jared had mentioned. I think we still have the most overall laid back lifestyle to enjoy.
So a lot of times when people are thinking about having a laid back lifestyle, they're thinking pace of life. How does it feel? Does it feel like a run, a jog, a walk, a saunter? I guess we could classify these areas as those. So I would say Seattle would be a run. I would say the North Tacoma area would be more like a jog. There's a lot more. Pace. Yeah, quick a little quick pace. Gig Harbor, probably a walk.
Yeah, it's a walk. It's a walk for sure.
And Olympia is going to be a saunter.
Absolutely. Well, the saunter would be the best way to describe it.
In fact, when we go for walks down along the water around Capitol Lake, it's just a meander. People are really chill, laid back, happy to just be exploring and seeing the beauty of this area around them. So that should give you a little bit better.
I like that. I've never heard that before, and I'm very impressed right now.
Thank you. So the next lifestyle category that people often ask us questions about is small town charm. So we talked a little about the urban, we talked about luxury. Now we're going to talk about small town charm.
The most small town charm is going to have to be Poles Bowl.
Poles Bowl for sure. Now, as we mentioned, you look on a map, it's not in this real close in area of South Puget Sound, but it is an area that most of our clients venture off and try to look into because of its charm. It's a Scandinavian town where there is a Viking greeting you, a big giant wood Viking greeting you as you go into town, and all the shops are Scandinavian in style. And of course you have Scandinavian bakeries, which you know we love bakeries too. Cute little shops on the water. It is just quaint. Next
on this list, I would have to say would be Gig Harbor, specifically the harbor itself that's on the water. Now, Gig Harbor has a couple parts to it. One of them where like they have the Costco and the developments that's happening there. But the charm is the downtown area, and it really is gorgeous. Great little restaurants, very walkable, has activities going on throughout the year, depending on what season it is. There's going to be a different activity that's community-based for you. It just is beautiful in every way, for sure.
And those are some of the things that make it feel like you've got that small town charm, is the activities that are happening, the community events, and Poles Bowl and Gig Harbor both have so many events where you can feel like you're connected to the community.
I would say then the next on the list would be Olympia. Either we're a little bit bigger than both of those areas for sure, but our downtown area is fairly sleepy. I mean, people are down, shuffling around, going to restaurants, going out to bakeries, eating, those type of things. We do have some nightlife, but for the most part, you're going to get that older feeling of a harbor city that's been around for a long time that hasn't turned into Seattle at all.
Yeah, it's very charming. Those are definitely the three areas that are the most charming. Now, you can get a little bit of small town feel in some of the neighborhoods in North Tacoma. The Proctor District really feels like you are in a small, little, charming town. It's got great shops to walk around, and it actually has the oldest theater and the oldest bowling alley in the area. And they have a wonderful farmers market, and they have community events. So you can be in the bigger city and still feel that. But if you want just to be away and be in a little quaint town that feels small town, then definitely the 3 that we mentioned. So there you have it. These are the lifestyle questions that we get asked by most people who are moving to the area. If you have a question that we haven't answered, we would love to answer that for you. Just go ahead and put it in the comments below. But if you are thinking about moving to the area and would love to talk to us more about the things that are on your mind, then we have made it really easy for you. Just look at that phone number right below, give us a call or text us. And of course, if you've enjoyed this video, keep watching because the next one is going to be great.